Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user LazyPresent2382. Am I the a-hole for telling my childhood friend I wouldn't court him because I didn't want to have his mother as my mother-in-law? I, 20 female, have grown up with my childhood friend, 22 male, who we'll call John. John left for the army when he was 18, but despite that, we stayed in touch and I even visited him once or twice where he was posted. I used to love John's mother, who we'll call Amy, when I was younger, but when I was 15, I overheard her saying some mean things about me and my siblings behind our backs to John, who she knew I liked at the time. She had some nasty things to say, like I might become a floozy because my birth mother was one. For context, me and my siblings are all adopted, as well as all of Amy's kids. She also said my father told her I don't clean myself, which I know isn't true because my father often complained to her that I showered too often. I like feeling clean and always have, so I might have STDs. Since overhearing these things, I couldn't really bring myself to remain as close to her as I was. Anyway, a few weeks ago, John came for a visit and his mother Amy visited my family as well as a few other friends over for dinner. I was pretty excited to see him since I hadn't seen him in over a year. During the visit, I needed to take a breather, so I stepped outside to get some fresh air and calm my nerves. John joined me after a while, which was perfectly fine since it allowed me to be able to finally talk to him one-on-one. We mainly just caught up with each other and talking about random things until he asked if he could court me. It took me quite some time to reply, but I did eventually tell him that I didn't want to have his mother as my mother-in-law and I didn't want to ruin his relationship with his mother, especially since they're so close. John seemed very disappointed, but he just said okay and changed the subject. I thought that was the end of that. But apparently he told Amy that he was going to ask me out beforehand, and after my family left, she had asked how it had gone. John, of course, answered truthfully and told her I said no, but it also told her what I said as to why I wouldn't let him court me. And the next morning, I woke up to a bunch of mean voicemails and texts from her and a few mutual friends calling me an a-hole for refusing to court John because I didn't want Amy as my mother-in-law and that I was a bitch for not liking Amy even though she's been nothing but kind to me and so on and so forth. I haven't responded to any of the calls and messages and frankly, I don't know how. I didn't wish to upset anyone, but I feel my reasons as valid. So, am I the a-hole for telling my childhood friend I wouldn't court him because I didn't want his mother as my mother-in-law? You're not the a-hole, OP. You made an honest, thoughtful decision to protect your peace. That's not cruel, it's smart. You didn't attack Amy, you just explained your feelings. Her past comments do matter. She was cruel about you and your family, and you don't have to ignore that for a relationship. Also, Amy's meltdown proved your point. Her nasty messages just reinforced why you didn't want her as a mother-in-law. So, OP, if I were you, I would just ignore all that hate. Don't fuel that drama. And if John reaches out to know what's going on, he deserves honesty, but your decision stands. Trust your instincts. You prioritize your well-being, and that's valid. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Immediate Sense 9627 says, they kind of just prove your point on why you wouldn't want to date him or have him court you, not the a-hole. The slew of texts parading you is proof enough you're dodging a bullet with this Amy woman as a mother-in-law. Waffle says, not the a-hole. Forward all the messages to John saying, thanks for this, then block him and everyone else. Lira Sanovar says, not the a-hole, but very nice of Amy to prove that you made the right decision. The woman sounds like a nightmare. And Danny Bravo 14 says, you dodged a bullet. If the message the next morning had been, John let me know what you said and I feel just terrible over something I said in the past, can we have coffee and talk? It would be a totally different story. Imagine being so obsessed with yourself you would get into the way of your son pursuing a girl he is attracted to. What a horrible woman. The community agrees that OP is not the a-hole. Now, OP did not respond to any comments, but we do have 3 updates, so let's move on with the first one. Thank you all so much for all the advice. It really helped with making my decision on how to handle the situation. Before I explain what my decision was, I'm going to answer some of the questions I was asked. 1. My family is religious and a bit old-fashioned, I supposed. My parents always told me growing up that dating was more casual and isn't always done with the intention of marriage, while courting was more formal and with the intention of marriage in the long run. John grew up the same way, so to us, he was asking if he could get to know me as a potential spouse. 2. I didn't tell anyone but my father what I overheard Amy saying about me, as at the time I didn't want to start problems and ruin relationships. My father did understand why I didn't want to be as close to Amy anymore and never forced the relationship. And 3. I might consider changing my mind if I wasn't expected to have a relationship with Amy in more than seeing her every once in a while at family gatherings, as long as I wasn't expected to speak with her. Okay, so I did send the screenshots of the messages I was getting to John. He called me and apologized, saying that he never intended for his mother to react that way and that he only told what I had said because he was angry and upset. He did say he wasn't angry at me as he understood my point of view. I did also tell him what I overheard, and he didn't deny it, and also told me she often said mean things about others as well, and that apparently she would say nasty things about him and his siblings to others also. Which I figured she said nasty things about others, but not her own kids. John told me he'd speak with his mother and would also like if we can all sit down and have a talk. I told him I'd think about it. I also sent the screenshots to the other friends that were sending me nasty messages, and most of them have been very quiet since then. My dad is appalled by their behavior as well and hasn't spoken much to any of them. Same goes for my siblings and the friends that are on my side. Okay, well, let's not waste any time and move on straight to the next update. So, I have a short update. John called me about an hour ago to tell me he talked with his mother and wanted to know if I would be willing to come over this Wednesday to have a talk with her and him. I asked if I could bring my father and older brother and he agreed. He also asked if it was okay to bring his grandmother, who we'll call Miss Mary, who's Amy's mother. I actually love Miss Mary. She's a wonderful person who doesn't take crap from anyone and isn't afraid to put people in their place, even her own daughter. She's a great Christian woman that I haven't seen since my high school graduation, but I do still call often. Me and John used to spend half our summer break at her house every year. She lives on a lake and we used to love going kayaking and fishing with her husband. She's the person who taught me how to sew, cook and clean, as well as how to bake delicious treats. I love baking and often do it to relax. Her late husband was an amazing person as well and was the one that inspired John to go into the army. So yes, I agreed to Miss Mary to come as well. I'm actually excited to see her because it's been years. Opie's edit. Amy has no clue her mother is coming. John asked me not to tell her either. He knows she would be on her best behavior in front of her mother otherwise. Also, to be honest, I do actually like John romantically, but I'm not willing to put up with Amy as a mother-in-law, so that's what I'm hoping this talk will help me decide. Now let's move on to the final update to see how this story ends. Okay, so I'm going to answer some questions I got on my last update before the actual update itself. 1. Yes, I like John romantically. The reason for me saying no was never because I didn't like him back, it was because I didn't want to have a mother-in-law who talks bad about me or my family. 2. I decided to have the meeting for a few reasons. 1. I wanted to know where me and John stood and whether or not I'd be able to stay friends after this. 2. I wanted to finally confront Amy on her behavior, not just towards me, but others as well. 3. I needed to know why John told her and whether or not it was like some of you thought, that he might have done it to confront her or confide in her. I don't expect Amy to ever change or for her to apologize, at least not an honest apology. I also thought I'd give you a bit more information about me and John's relationship up until this point. Like I said before, me and John are childhood friends. Our fathers are also childhood friends, and our mothers met in their 20s and became friends. Me and John did pretty much everything together up until he left for the military when he turned 18. If I wanted to go to the movie theater, I'd invite John and we'd go together. If John wanted to go camping, we'd go together. We have a lot of the same hobbies as well. We both like hiking and mountain climbing, as well as swimming and going on runs. Like I mentioned in my last post, me and John stayed at Mrs. Mary's house during our summer breaks. Yes, Miss Mary taught me how to cook, clean, sew, and how to bake, but she did that because she didn't want me being lazy and laying around all summer, so why not put me to work? At least that's how I see that. She also put John to work too while we were there, so it wasn't just me. John used to help Mrs. Mary's late husband with yard work and garage work. Okay, so now let me give you the actual update. Miss Mary sat in a different room of John's home with my father at first without Amy's knowledge. That was my father's suggestion, and my brother recorded the initial conversation to share with everyone else. I spoke first and explained my side. She tried to interrupt me as I spoke, but John shut her down every time. I told her how I didn't like how she reacted after hearing that I didn't want her as my mother-in-law and that her having her friends gang up on me and also say rude things was completely inappropriate. I then mentioned what I had overheard her saying about me when I was 15, and that's when she started yelling at me. She was saying things like, "I never said anything mean," and "You made that up," as well as, "I don't understand what you're bringing that up now," and "Didn't I help your brother get into college?" As well as, "Wasn't I there for you when your mother died? Didn't I comfort you?" Which, no, she didn't. John did that as well as Miss Mary. John's older brother and cousin, as well as some of my other friends, and of course my family were there for me, but not Amy. John did stand up for me, but Amy just got more upset and started screaming at John until Miss Mary had had enough and made herself be known. Amy pretty much immediately shut up. Miss Mary immediately started scolding Amy for her behavior. Miss Mary wasn't yelling, she stayed calm, but man, I've never seen her so upset before. Honestly, it was scary how calm but angry she was. Have any of you heard the saying, "Nothing's scarier than calm anger"? Amy did try to make excuses for her behavior to Miss Mary, but immediately stopped after John showed her the messages I had sent him. She didn't apologize, which I didn't really expect anyways, and pretty much immediately left after that. Me and John did talk things out and decided we should just remain friends, at least for the time being. I did ask if he was going to keep contact with his mother, and he said yes, but minimal for now. I also asked why he'd told Amy what I said, and he told me he had been upset and she had started nagging him for answers on how his proposal is gone. He said he pretty much blew up at her and that had slipped out. He apologized again for that. I also had a one-on-one talk with Miss Mary. She apologized again for Amy's behavior. We ended up catching up and discussing John. She did say that she kind of always hoped I'd end up with John or John's cousin. Miss Mary did say that I needed to think long and hard about the kind of man I wanted in my life partner and to never settle for anything less, because if she settled for less, she would never had such a great marriage with her late husband. She also invited me to visit her if I needed a vacation. She lives 6 hours away on a beautiful lake. So that's pretty much everything that happened, and I will be going no contact with Amy, and my father has decided to do the same. I will, however, still be continuing my relationship with John as friends and see how it goes from there. Thank you all so much for all the advice. Well, Opie, first of all, Miss Mary sounds awesome. It's so great that you have her in your life. She sounds like she's somebody who's truly rooting for you and has your back. And I think you and your dad have made the right decision regarding Amy. She sucks and her toxicity should just be dismissed. And regarding John, as you say, let's see how it goes from here. So on that note, here's wishing you the best, Opie. Take care and thanks for sharing. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user Effective Turnover 66. Am I the a-hole for taking my girlfriend's brother's challenge, leading to them getting humiliated with no fault of mine? So I'm 29 male and I have a girlfriend, 28 female, and we have been dating since past 1.5 years. She has 2 older brothers and 1 younger brother, and all of them are these "we are men" dudes. Now, her brothers are pretty decent guys. I've been around them enough to know that they just live in that headspace that every man should be big and strong. Now, I'm 5'9", but I'm on the stocky side. Since I first met them, they've always commented on the fact that their sister should not date a guy shorter than them. They are also super big on UFC, drinking and working out, which I'm fine with working out and UFC because I myself like these other than drinking. They always comment that she should be with someone who's a badass and not a French guy. I'm half French on my mother's side, who are perceived as cowards, etc. Last week, on Saturday, they had a family get-together of around 20 to 30 people, and I was naturally also invited. Late into the party, they started saying that she should have been with one of her exes, as they liked him for being a big, strong guy. I was a bit hurt by the comment and pushed back. Rather than backing down, they said that if I can beat them in a wrestling match, they'll consider me a man. I initially didn't accept, but I think I didn't want to be perceived as a coward. Now, the thing is that they don't know that judo is big in France, and I was pretty active in the national judo circuit until I was 16, but had to move to the US with my parents. 3 years just before I started dating her, I started getting back into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm just a lowly blue belt, but I train like 4 to 5 days a week only as a hobby. They're not into BJJ and even made fun of me for that. So, getting to the moment, we square off, and without hurting them, I could easily take them down and pin them, and this repeated for all of them. It was a stunning silence in the party and the mood turned sour, so I took my leave. The next day, my girlfriend started saying that you have no right to humiliate them when they were just being playful with you. I know you train BJJ, but they were being friendly and all. I told her I didn't hurt them and was also initially not interested in wrestling them. Also, I explained to her I could have used a strangle or a joint lock to hurt them, but I simply kept them pinned. It apparently has hurt their manhood, and my girlfriend is just being an overall insensitive person about it. She is now going on this whole tangent of me being insecure to prove myself and humiliating her brothers to feel like a bigger man. I'm usually a quiet person, but I'm not able to understand how I approach this situation. Hold on, OP. So these guys have been bullying you for 1.5 years and she has never said anything to them. But the moment that you say, fine, you've had enough, and they challenged you, you beat them, and somehow you've hurt their manhood, now she's got a problem with this and you're the one that's insecure? I'm sorry, but that is just ridiculous on her part. And to the brothers, I think that's called just desserts, isn't it? Not the a-hole, OP, and your girlfriend needs to reconsider her logic, or I would reconsider her. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Revert says Homaru says, not the a-hole. Run, leave, and don't look back. If your girlfriend can't even acknowledge or respect the fact they kept saying crap and comparing you to her exes, and you defending yourself and with friendly spar match, then what else will she allow? Her whole family sounds like a comedic version of an American family. I'm American. Any Expression 2246 says, your girlfriend is part of the problem, not correcting them when they make fun of you. Ask her why she doesn't defend the person she's supposed to love. And Creepy But Cute says, you break up, that's what. Do you really want to deal with this for the rest of your life? Well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and that he should break up. So let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. She was waiting for me outside my apartment saying that she wanted to talk. She started saying that it was very embarrassing for her that her brothers and boyfriend got into a fight, which I told her was not a fight and something initiated by her brothers. She doesn't even seem to think that they are at fault, and to quote her, they were a little drunk, so you being sober should have been the mature one and ignored them. I asked her if she planned on stopping them if they went too far, and she said, yes, I would have because I know you don't like to do all this. To which the only answer I had was that, well, you didn't do anything and have been only a silent observer in the bullying. To which she started huffing and being like, don't make everything about bullying and whatnot. You are being too sensitive and whatnot. I told her the way she had been acting, I don't think I'm interested in continuing the relationship, to which she started saying, "You are gaslighting me," or whatever terms she could think of from TikTok she could throw at me. She started crying and said I thought you cared for me, and called her brothers to apologize to me and said to hash out the issue, which I'm not currently interested in doing. So as of now, I have decided we are on a break, and I could not stay in my apartment or else she would have been persistent in talking to me. Her brothers are now blowing up my phone with messages like, "Come on dude, we are over that, you proved yourself, cut her some slack," but maybe I have been too lenient with them all along, so they are blocked. Well, Opie, even in the end, you were still the guilty party in her eyes. I think this relationship is over. You do what you want, but if I were you, I'd just cut and run. In any case, thanks for sharing, Opie, and here's wishing you the best. Take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.